Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HKGAGPodcast. Today, I have with me Brawnsen, and we're going to be talking about leftism in Hong Kong. So, Brawnsen, do you just want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi everyone, I'm Brawnsen, kind of a millennial here in this Discord, and I'm reminded of that every day when I pop up to your Discord. Big fan, and we kind
Nice.
of connected from messaging on Instagram actually, and we realized that not a lot of discourse, as in discussions about leftism. And yeah, I want to sway your opinion a little bit, maybe.
All right, so do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Maybe it's better that you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
Might
I
be
think
an
that's
easier.
good.
Yeah, I've been in and out of leftists in Hong Kong, as in like a close observer, and obviously I'm studying at most of the times when the social movements are happening. And what I find interesting is, like, where I'm coming from is when you are in Hong Kong Gag, the main account that you would post a lot of like memes
Mm-hmm.
and pictures on racism, which is a very interesting, yeah, to put it like very lightly, that it's like a very contented issue. Like, we're very disappointed in probably the racism discourse in Hong Kong, and what everyone is thinking and discussing. And I think I would want to sway you a little bit in the tactics of, like, how would you approach this? And like, maybe you're starting basically a comment war in the replies on the topic, you know?
Yeah, no, I get it. So, yeah, just for context, like as I'm recording this, I've been making like on and off some like anti-racist memes, kind of like saying, "Hey, this isn't okay," and that's specific towards like anti-mainlander sentiment. And while some people are like, "Yeah, this is cool, this is base," like some people are like, "No, you're a traitor" or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's probably some people notice that they don't really like it, but most people seem to be on board. So, yeah, anyways, continue.
Yeah. Uh, Funny when people say based, and they would be sort of like very skeptical of anti-racism. Uh, it's funny, but I do think there's a few things that is you can see from those replies, or the phenomenon that's happening, is that it doesn't get discussed at all, probably in the main discourse. Uh, Mainly because first is the language barrier. English and Cantonese or Chinese language discussions are
Yes.
sort of segregated, to put the least. And probably a lot of people, I assume, like a lot of people here would be international school context,
Like
where
kind of,
they would. Sorry.
yeah. No. I was saying kind of, but there's been more local school students, though they speak more English than Cantonese, though. So yeah.
Right. And at least I would say, like, in here in the Discord server, that most of them are very left leaning, if not leftist, and they are very used to the mainstream, the main talking in the news or in media that they consume, that would lean towards, at least if not leftist, pretty liberal.
Yeah.
And and let's say, Black Lives Matter, or any sort of like taxation policies in the U.S. or something. They're very familiar with it. Like
Right.
in the Hong Kong context, it's a little bit different. So yeah, I
Ye-
would maybe want to bring you as to an easier approach, maybe you can sway more people towards the left.
Well, like I'm kind of a leftist. Like I believe in I'm not entirely against capitalism, but I do think it's heavily flawed, and we could definitely have a better system. But yeah, basically, these are my thoughts. Anyways, you want to continue?
Yeah, if you have any thoughts, like I don't want to rant.
No, go ahead.
Ever. And so coming in from like the Cantonese discourse of things, the main thing that they're worried about, actually, if in Cantonese, if you are left leaning, is a little bit problematic because the authorities claim to be left leaning as well. Is historically, at least, like I know, like the top brass would probably avoid labels, but obviously, since the '60s, from the riots and everything, the central government authority would claim to be the proper left, or the left with Chinese characteristics.
Indeed,
and it muddles the waters between like what we're talking about now versus then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Right. So probably when you look on the replies, like definite hellhole there. Are you allowed to swear here, or?
Of course.
All right. So I
that's
don't have to. Yeah. So I don't have to pay attention to that. Yeah. Yeah. If you look at the replies, a lot of people is like, you just left hearts, and quite so many sort of influencers, KOLs would also avoid that kind of label. They would laugh about it, but they would like not champion themselves to be left leaning. So yeah, for most people, if they think of like left hearts or yeah, if anyone gets offended, I'm sorry, but that's what the discourse is, and you have to face it at any point. But they would associate with the kind of like more liberal centric, like the Democratic Party in Hong Kong, which would be a more mild and advocate for strongly for like a non-violent protest or that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Which most people would mock to be like you're basically kind of like handing over the result, or maybe you sold Hong Kong already through a guise of like pretending the discourse is still happening or pretending there's still an opposition, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I was thinking a lot of Hong Kongers, they can be a lot very black and white, and we definitely saw that with Trump. Like, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's anti-China. That means he's on the outside." Like, yeah, but then also, he also, I think a lot of people skimmed over like some of the shit he's done. Just said, "Oh, yeah, that's why he's good." But unfortunately, that's not it.
Yeah, I'd say like most sane and people who are involved or paying close attention to the news will realize Trump is not like totally understand what's going on. To be honest, like even if we have like a one-sided wishful thinking that he's gonna come in and kind of salvage the situation or help Taiwan or whatever. It's like a very far-fetched idea, and we're probably better off to be thinking like even the Biden administration is very supportive of Hong Kong, at least the Free Hong Kong movement, and also it's the well is very poisoned. Yeah, the saying is like, everyone is already very biased towards supporting Trump. That is basically buying up propaganda from the right. Really wholeheartedly, like 100%. Like there are people who are, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, but there's
I'm
a
definitely
sizable.
not on Twitter.
You are not, yeah, but I cursed myself with that. Uh,
That
and,
F.
yeah, and there's a sizable chunk of people who are buying up because the Taiwan discourse is also very heavily influenced by the right. Yeah, I don't know if you read Epoch Times, and
I
they have a
don't.
huge, yeah, right. But then they have a online presence at least.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
toes.
And so the thing is, I think there's not a lot of like left-leaning media, not on the opposition side, that would clearly kind of report on other news other than like right-wing talking points. Like basically, if you go on Twitter, I know you won't, but yeah, just say if
Yeah.
that it is a huge problem. Like even at the I would hate to bring it up, but like the gun
Yeah.
rights and the women's rights that is
Yeah.
recently coming up in the U.S. politics, that yeah, a lot of those are being translated into Chinese, Cantonese,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Honestly, like
it's frustrating. Yeah.
we're recording this like on the week of like the Texas shooting, and I saw someone post. I don't think it was specifically right or left leaning. Was just like saying, "Oh," in China, say, "Oh, this happened," and then some people were saying, "Oh, it's clearly fake because America can do no law." I was just fucking disgusted by it. It's like, what the fuck are you guys? It's still propaganda,
It
and it's just
is,
kind of that.
but you also
Yeah.
like expect it to happen
Oh yeah, definitely.
to like every shooting or every, yeah, not every, like Roe v. Wade being overturned. Those things you can already imagine the talking points coming from the right,
Yeah.
and and now we're just having this is the internet age where people just verbatim uh, translate into Cantonese and post it, and they actually reflect all the talking. I was seeing like shooting, Texas shooting or the Buffalo shooting, where people would like, it's just trigger warning for everyone who's like uh, not
Yeah.
good with the right talking points, but it happens. I see like Cantonese people or even LIHKG would be posting, because
Oh
not every single person that is killed is black and is not a hate crime, or uh, let's say, the shooting, maybe it's from a trans person or like an illegal immigrant, just throw in whatever enemy that they have. So yeah, there you go. It's really frustrating, but also
yeah.
leading into the Cantonese space that you have to, I guess you have to live with it a little bit.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and the thing is like from the West, like this isn't like right or left, but like there's very much an oversimplification of like the anti-CCP situation. Like people like saying, oh, a lot of people think that Hong Kong wants independence or like Taiwan wants to retake China, but like truth is like that's not really the majority. Like in Taiwan, it's really the Kuomintang, and in Hong Kong, it's really just the some people who support independence. It's just not the majority, and I think that leads to a lot of miscommunication and misconceptions about the situation over here.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. So coming back to
Yeah,
the racism situation,
yeah.
like, how do you feel about it, or like what's
Yeah, this is
the
Hong Kong, right?
game here?
Not the
Yeah.
US. Yeah, Hong Kong. Now,
Yeah, Hong Kong, in
yeah,
the Hong Kong context. Yeah.
I think we start off by saying that it's definitely bad. And while I do get some people who live in like let's say Zhangzhou or like and they may have their businesses possibly affected by mainland tourists, and maybe that's not necessarily good, but I wouldn't say that's like that's not really an excuse to be racist.
Right.
Like,
Okay. Yeah, I would agree that a lot of people are definitely racist. But yeah, yeah, I hate to defend races here, but
Yeah, no,
like
no,
from a
just
leftist point of view,
I,
you have to understand. Sorry, you're saying.
no, you continue. I was just saying that I understand what you're trying to say. So just
Yeah,
say.
yeah. In a just I don't want to be too pedantic, but
Yeah.
a lot of people's opinions or their stories in their heads are kind of formed from where they grow up or the I guess the media around them with their parents and whatnot. So let's say if you're from Songso, then you'll be way more exposed to one type or to I don't know very limited amounts of mainland traders, if you would say, or if I go in there, it's like totally different than where I live, and uh, it's it's very understandable how people in the north would think of mainlanders. Now, yeah, I guess the same thing can go on the online discussions where people would run into their own version of mainland, or they're from mainland, or they're uh, yeah, from different parts where they have bad experiences, and
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, they do like to shit on mainland people, and yeah, I would just say like I would kind of understand where they're coming from, but they also do not know what is considered like aggression against mainlanders or aggression against another group.
Yep.
So let's say, for example, uh, let's say I'm in Europe right now, and
Mm-hmm.
people are really careful when they talk about people's race or when they make fun of other people's, let's say, language, uh, making their nicknames, and asking people where they're from. It's very sensitive. But they'd be like super polite and try to tread very carefully in those situations. And I don't think that's like an etiquette that is used in Hong Kong at all. People will be assuming things really quite
Yeah.
quickly, but I wouldn't say that's like straight up. That is racism, but also there are different kinds, and
Yeah. No. I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah. So a large part of the people is they don't talk to a lot of uh, mainlanders or people from other areas, and they would feel like it's a fun um, discourse that just to converse and communicate with other people, just talk with them. They can't think of anything not racist to say sometimes, and I guess Hong Kong needs to be more international to be uh, to deal with it, you know.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I guess what's the worst racism that you've seen? Like,
Um, face value can't really say much since never really had an experience, but on comments like I get a lot of like I'm not racist, but comments like this is like I can't really think of like anything that's particularly worse, but that's one instance that I can think like I know there's a member in this community that is borderline on that, and she's just like kind of like the I'm not racist, but also this and that. And I'm just thinking like, yeah, like it's definitely not enough for me to say, oh, you shouldn't be in this community anymore because what you're saying is generally racist. But it's something to be like, yeah, you're probably not gonna. You're probably this isn't right. This doesn't seem right to me. You get what I mean?
oh yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, mostly the worst is what people would type online, and yeah, just remember this is online, and people do
Yeah.
not think that they have responsibility saying things, aggressions of like offending other people and whatnot, you know?
Mm. Yeah, and this brings me to another thing. I think like a lot of Hong Kongers tend to really be kind of sensationalist and kind of like overreact a bit. Like I remember back during this was a few months ago, a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago. I don't remember when HKG got taken down from the App Store, I think, and then a lot of people panicking saying HKG was going to be shut down, and then but it's still up there. It's still up to there. I don't think really anything came to it. And I think it's just thinking like should we really be reacting like this to every piece of news? Like we shouldn't. Like there's a difference between there's a difference between sharing news and emphasizing what's important and just fear mongering. Do you get what I mean? Sorry,
Yeah.
mumbling.
Let me get it straight. So you say
Yeah,
recently HKG was taken down from the App Store or something,
yeah, but yes,
and the
2 weeks ago.
reaction is very racist, or
No, the reaction was very sensationalist. A lot of people were saying that HKG was going to be taken down altogether. But the thing is, it didn't happen, and this relates back to like how you were saying like how a lot of Hong Kongers are quick to judge, and I think like that's kind of like that part of like that overreaction shit, and unfortunately, a lot of big pages kind of like perpetrate that. Like it's
oh,
gonna
as in like they shared the news really quickly and
news
turned
and
out
it's
to
just
be false.
not really false, but like what actually happened was true. Like HKG was taken out from the App Store, but people were making up saying, "Oh, the HKG is going to be shut down." But the thing is, it wasn't. And after like 2 years of this shit since the NSL, I'm starting to, like you can't help but think, wait, aren't people kind of overreacting a bit? Like just a bit, if you think.
Yeah. Actually didn't follow close. I haven't seen any in my circle, at least, to be like very scared that LIHKG is being taken down, or it's as in like even if it happens, it's not like
It's not. Yeah, I
uh,
think
it
it
wasn't
was
a
definitely.
surprise.
Yeah. Um. No, yeah. There's this page called International FCCP, and they kind of
Yeah.
do a lot of. Yeah, just kind of like I've like had a lot of arguments with them over their content, and this is not very receptive of like criticism at all. So it definitely makes it a pain to try and argue with them. So I just gave up and just
Right.
just like
Is it like a online feud between the big meme
it's
pages?
not really a meme page, more of a news page. But no, just we
Right.
most
I do
we
follow
mostly
them.
yeah we mostly kept it to DMs. But yeah, we did have
Right.
a big some there's a small kind of small online fight that we had. It was like
Right. No, I mean, it's great that you guys can keep it in the DMs. Let's
yeah,
put it out there.
for the most
It
part,
Yeah, and you just
yeah.
have to accept like the the other page is really uh right leaning in most of the sources. Not most, like at least half. And yeah, and keeping in touch with them is actually really important rather than burning that bridge.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, I know, I get what you mean.
Yeah, I think it is important. Like people, at least over on this side, they would really ask about how's the situation here, and they couldn't fathom or they wouldn't think of something like, uh, as in people in the protest are both right and left leaning,
Yeah.
and I think this is actually a really unique and great thing about the kind of the anti-authority movement.
Hmm.
Right. Obviously, like how to progress from here, or how we deal with things. Let's say, for example, if I'm a leftist in Hong Kong, let's say, just
Yeah. Yeah.
hypothetically, I'm still like active, advocating things. Do I go like this is actually the main question that I would bring up the table? That would you still push for universal suffrage, or is it like I'll just do the leftist thing of like union organizing or workers' rights, women's rights, identity politics, you know? Is there like a priority to this? That's the question.
I am. This is a hard question. Like,
It is, right? Like you can. I mean, like I don't have a good answer to this. I just, if everyone who's left leaning here would listen, probably you have a big audience, that that this is definitely a question that people have to think about if they're in Hong Kong. Like like people would be like, you need all these things. The main argument for like, oh, you don't need environmentalism or you don't need women's rights, that I mean, like people would be opposing progressivism, would say like you're gonna need vote, you're gonna need a systematic change for those things to happen. And
yeah.
and it's basically a conundrum. Like you can't solve it by kind of yourself. But also like because we don't have any confidence or we don't have any faith in the political system at all, that I guess everything needs to be built from personal contacts. Like I don't know if you're you probably are part of the economic circle, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. That like there are bookstores, there are restaurants, I guess, and people who had done who had been in unions. If you're in a certain occupation, probably you have started a union because of 2019. Yeah, I guess that's like very much the fabric of what people left leaning can do, and yeah, it's just hard to face the big problem, and we need everyone on board to be thinking of universal suffrage or anything of free Hong Kong or a change in the system, right?
Yeah, no, just I think, I think like beyond universal suffrage, you also need to focus on like how Hong Kong started capitalism kind of like, has control on this city, and how, another issue would be like representation of the LGBT community and women's rights. Like, I don't know, it's just like just moving it to like LGBT, like this is kind of common trait, but I think a lot of people kind of diminish like the role that small groups that advocate for these issues, like saying that, oh, there are no groups that help LGBT in Hong Kong. I'm like, well, that's kind of like diminishing the work that groups. They're small, yes, but they are also still there. And by like saying that, oh no, there's nobody cares about it in Hong Kong, it's kind of like diminishing their work, and it just doesn't feel right, Like same with for the Marx, like, oh, there's no opposition, like, I mean, technically it is, but I don't think it's right to really diminish them, and there's still like yellow businesses all around Hong Kong, so I don't think it's right to say that. And it's not like that all the people staying are like bootlickers to the CCP, because obviously that's not true. Because some people can't afford it, some people don't want to leave.
Right. Yeah, I would agree, but it is surprisingly nice when actually Hong Kong is.
Oh.
Sorry, you're saying.
No, continue. I was listening.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see like people in Hong Kong are actually pretty supportive of the LGBTQ community, because from every interaction about these situations, although like there may not be very well, they're not very well conversed in kind of the language, the appropriate style and stuff, but actually they are really supportive. That I need to commend. Like even I assume like even the page that you're feuding with, not really. The other pages, even if they're right leaning, they are really open to LGBT communities. So I guess this is a really great way to connect with everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know, like even if you're saying minorities, people are actually a little bit okay with minorities. I would say like if minorities are really vocal in the protests back in 2019, they're super supportive. And there are people who would put out articles as well on like, oh, how to draw these young people, or how to connect with them, how to like stand in solidarity with them, even though there are no protests. And I think these are more practical stuff in posting. Yeah, sorry.
Like democracy, you can still do good things like in a system like this. Like you can still try and help your community out and try to help people around you that maybe disadvantaged because yes, of who they are.
Oh yeah.
Just try to do every little bit that helps.
Yeah, for the Hong Kong authorities, although they claim to be, the authoritarian left, but they're terrible towards minorities, and their housing policy basically crap. I do think this angle is really helpful if you're trying to push towards people towards this solidarity with the minorities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which brings it actually. Sorry if I keep ranting.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, a post about like people being racist is it's very true. People are being racist, but also racists don't like to be called correctly. But they wouldn't like whoever, I don't know, my family, if they're racist, they don't like to be called racist. I'm not. I'm just. Those people are kind of like that, So I was trying to push you towards like, don't face them head on, Yeah.
Yeah.
You're starting a couple like Twitter wars, no, Instagram wars, but
name wars.
I hope it's not too bad for you.
I know it's fine.
Yeah, but afterwards, probably it's good to kind of have some resources or articles on trying to promote, minority rights, or remind them of like there are still minorities in Hong Kong. There's actually a whole lot of people in Hong Kong who are not Han Chinese, at least.
Like, sure, they may be the majority, but obviously they're not. It's not just them. Like, I don't recall any like specific like anti like ethnic minority, like we're talking like South Asians or Southeast Asians, like discrimination from the pandemic camp. Like, I don't remember any like it was mostly like if there was any discrimination, it would be against either the LGBT community or mainlanders, but not really against like South Asians or Southeast Asians. That's what I've noticed. Like I could be wrong, but in general life there has been general discrimination because of
Right. I think of one example. People really like to throw shit at former LegCo member Fernando Zheng. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Fernando Zheng is kind of like the stereotypical libtard that the right would say he is. He's he's very supportive of minorities, or he's very worried of the minority rights. And apparently there was like advocated for like people overstaying in Hong Kong, as in like refugees and stuff like that. And it drew some criticism of like him putting that as a priority over people in Hong Kong. Right. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I recall something like that happening. But yeah, I think like I just feel like a lot of like even for a lot of people who I wouldn't say are racist, like they definitely have some anti kind of anti-mainlander sentiments. They kind of like they don't say, oh, I don't think mainland should be in Hong Kong. Or something like that. I was like, oh, I don't think Mandarin should be spoken. But I think they're just saying like, oh, there's some, I don't know. It just makes me uncomfortable. But like
True.
going back to your
True.
point about minorities, yeah, I think there's like, yeah, I think there's this a lot of people just don't really pay attention. Like I feel like a lot of people don't really pay attention to like LGBT rights. Like it was only really because of Osan's love, like the TVB, not the TVB drama, the View TV drama. Sorry, I don't
Right.
watch TV. Yeah, no, it's fine. Fine.
I ha
Sorry.
I know it from the news. I don't watch it.
Yeah, same,
But it's great.
same. But anyway,
It's an all
my point
right.
is that
Yeah.
because of that, people, some awareness of the gay community and like LGBT in general. But generally, it's still probably like some people don't really like it because Regina Ip
Yeah.
advocated for like the gay games, and a lot of people say, oh, because you're advocating gay games, that means the LGBT community is supporting us. It's like, not, nah, that's not true, man. Like, it's like saying, it's, I don't know. It's just it seems like a lot of people come to Hong Kong gang and then they are like, there's a lot of people who are LGBT in the community, and there's a lot of people who come to Hong Kong gang and they kind of like talk about how I'm actually talking about like LGBT rights and that's good, and they say yeah, that's give me these to I guess. But it's just general kind of shocking how it's not really shocking, but kind of like compared to like issues about ethnic minorities, it's not really talked about or really cared about a lot, and that's the main issue. It's like one of the main issues. No, I'll call it
Yeah.
now.
That
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like
I
around.
I don't have the feeling that people do not care of let's say gay
Yeah.
rights or representation or something. But
Yeah, I don't. Sorry, poor choice of words.
no, no, no.
Yeah, kind of.
It's just to clarify, there are people who like very binary in terms of their thinking. Let's say if Regina Ip
Yeah.
is advocating for this, it must be wrong. Or
Yeah.
if the Chinese government is doing this, you have to go the other way. And I do think it needs more discussions. Like people actually have
Yeah.
to actively engage with what they believe in and what the authorities should be doing or what Regina Ip should be doing. I don't know what she's doing. Like she's basically like in the executive branch right now, right? Executive council.
I think she like I well regardless, she's a high ranking official regardless.
Right. True. She is. Um, what I'm saying is, it could be worse, and people would
Yeah.
realize. Let's say now, Carrie is on her way out, and Regina Ip was thinking to be on her way out for a really long time, and let's say the newest executive branch has Junius Ho in it.
Yeah.
And the new CE probably does not
John Lee.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything, any bone of his to be going near anything about the LGBT community. He doesn't know. He's clueless of the whole thing. I'm just betting. I'm also like writing my own story here, but I would
No,
bet
no, it's fine.
like he does not care or he wouldn't go near it. Like he knows, but
I think
yeah.
I think he just doesn't know much at all. But
Yeah, or maybe he would
no,
pull from his boss like what they would do and then do the same thing here.
yeah. Um. No, yeah, I think there's like a lot of people who just kind of like correlate anything related to the CCP as like anything related to China. Like anything related to China must be related to the CCP, and therefore it must be bad. And I think it's kind of like that kind
Yeah.
of casual racism again. And no, just I had this conversation with one of the members on the server called Wisdu.
Really?
Like it's kind of like very moderate pandem, kind of pro-China in the sense of like I want democracy on China. Like I think and I identify myself as Chinese,
Right.
rather than Hong Konger.
Okay.
And I think just hearing from his perspective was very interesting.
Right.
Because you don't really get like sorry. Do you want to
No,
speak?
go ahead. Keep going.
I get the feeling that there seems to be quite a uniform opinion across like the um pandem camp. Like it's either that or like the localist opinion. It's not really much others apart from like the more. And it just feels like hearing some different opinions from my time at Hong Kong Gag, and that felt really interesting. Like
Right.
Yeah.
The most of the criticism for them is that, well, of course, mainly stems from election time, that they would come out and endless virtue signaling, as in like they pretend they fought for this and that. And there are people who would like dig back the records, although I haven't checked if they're like 100% correct, that they would miss certain voting. And the worst one came from before the 2019 protests, that someone gave up the seat to the, how do you say it in English?
And
Somewhat similar to Speaker of the House, but not exactly.
Oh, I know the
Sorry.
Let's chairman. Am I?
Yeah. The chairman to the the big Leshko meeting, and it resulted in like not having enough authority over the discussions for the extradition bill, and that's like a really direct miss strategy, terrible strategy from the Pandem's part. Like, they.
I think Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I think one of the main issues, like I saw, I think I mean, you're probably familiar with this, but the 2010 like political reform, like the Democratic Party accepted that, but like some of the other like more radical pandems kind of like not really supportive of it. So yeah, there was kind of that contention, and at the same time, I think there was a lot of like just just thinking over things. There was like some kind of it was already this is divided, and a lot of people don't really focus on. Like I think really the Democratic Party and like the other moderate pandemic parties really just kind of they kind of just didn't really they kind of just kind of had a very different viewpoint, kind of like again much more moderate viewpoint.
Yeah. They I think the main problem with them is like they didn't realize their effects that are done in Leshko. Probably they would imagine themselves to be more effective than they are, and they would foolishly bought in like the authorities would probably change for the better, or somehow their votes in Leshko can kind of push in for other policies. And imagine, like, I would say it to people who are opposed to kind of the Pandems. They did their utmost after the protest, and I appreciate, like, most of them are actually incarcerated right now. That, like, it is, I don't know how to say this, not like appreciative, but at least they did what they can out of that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing like that's what you can kind of reply to some of the old criticism towards Pandems. And also, like, they're probably they have one seat now in the Leshko or something.
They don't have any seats in Leshko, but they do have like Pandem team camp has like
they have
a handful,
probably
30 40
sorry.
seats in like district councils. So
Right. Yeah. That's also really disheartening to see. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you like kind of discounting like what the remaining people are working on. It's kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Again, it feels like they kind of diminishing their work and kind of ignoring it. And yeah,
No, yeah,
I just
definitely like
it's just love Hong Kongers being too binary, black and white. Like
right. Yeah.
that's I've heard way too many horrible takes. Like no, anyways, you continue.
No, it is. I didn't think of like the pandemics would come up on the discussion today, but yeah, it's just they're practically history now, sadly, and we just have to acknowledge that they are the main conversation starters, and like just think of like if you're 15 or you're 20 or something, you're probably less impressed with the Democratic Party. There are people who are in 50s, 60s who are like not very bought into the more radical parties that we have, and
Yeah,
they are actually really surprised by how pandems were acting during the protests and moved a lot of people towards pro-protest, and I think that is actually really impressive. You don't want to be so uh, not that you can't be radical, is people who would feel like they
yeah,
are the leftist theory would be purity testing, right? Like
yeah,
you would have someone and you're saying like he's not radical enough or he's not loyal enough or he hasn't done this thing or that thing. Imagine kind of like
yeah.
Mirror or boy group or something. I wouldn't say
Oh
anything
yeah.
bad against them, so just yeah, don't
Yeah,
give me
you can
crap on
say it.
it.
I've felt so much shit against like the
I
stand
know there are
not
people
band
on
mid
here who are
and
like,
stand new
yeah,
room.
no, I love them. It's like people would kind of second guess, like, oh, they're not like yellow enough, or they're doing a show for, I don't know, a New Year's party for the government or something, whatever. That would throw a little bit of political shade on Mira somehow. I guess that's the same thing with, like, you can't be forever testing everyone on their political spectrum and then expecting like there are a lot of people on your side. I think I guess that's what we need to think of is draw
Acknowledge.
people in with the same ideas. And let's say we'll start with LGBTs. That's great, and something else. Yeah, I don't know how much time you got, but basically the topics I would want to kind of like get people to focus on is to things that would unite people who are like, I don't know, from the LIHKG with more progressive talk, you know?
Yeah, no, just
Yeah.
um
Let's say for example,
no,
if you got the time, I mean,
no, no, yeah, we got a bit of time, so yeah, you can
right? Okay,
continue.
I'll be quick. So,
No,
yeah, LGBT is a great start. Women's rights maybe a little bit tougher, but once you get into LGBT discourse, I guess women's rights is also because I don't know, like
yeah,
LIHKG is probably pretty male centric.
very right. Yeah,
So there
no, definitely.
yeah, if there's a lady there, people will be like direct messaging them so hard.
If if the big word is
If
if,
yeah, there are like lots of false ideas.
I seriously doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even within like the LGBT community, like just for example, like a lot of people are often made with like male to female transgender, but not exactly female to male transgender. I think that's kind of like a sign of like, LGBT, like the knowledge of LGBT in Hong Kong, and
Right.
also
To
just
be surprised, actually, like a lot of at least the gays, and uh,
oh yeah,
they, there are a lot of LGBT in Hong Kong, but then they are
yeah.
also very bought into the LHKG discourse, as in they are pretty pro-Trump somehow.
I don't get that either, but yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean
yeah, because
like just
yeah,
example like
please go ahead.
yeah, just examples like cinema. Like I don't know how much you know, but a lot of LGBT films they happen to be focused on like gay relationships.
Right.
Like there's been like I think there's been only like one major trans film about trans people, and like only a few about lesbians, and like that's about it. So yeah, it's just
Yeah,
kind
but
of shows like I think most people are aware that
yeah, sorry.
gay people, that lesbian people exist, but not so much trans or non-binary or have asexual, like things like I wouldn't say the West is super progressive, like that feels wrong, but the idea of like people being non-binary is more prominent in the West and Hong Kong. I think
Right.
that's kind of like a sign like this. That's what we should be focusing on.
That could be.
I don't know, just
There, I know there are a lot of people who are into uh, that is that they're cis and straight. They are they love this kind of movies, and there's not
yeah.
enough of these movies. And you're so right. Like gay and lesbian movies are few and far in between. But that's the same thing with let's say Hollywood, which is the leading
Oh
market,
yeah.
the market leader. That like it, same thing happens. Like I guess the gay films are more marketable than lesbian films. Um.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh,
No,
another. Sorry. Yeah.
no, it's fine. Just
Uh,
listening.
this,
Continue.
this is great. Like the gay rights and I guess people getting into it. Where I would assume like movies would be one, but then like I don't know how many people would get into reading about or advocating for gay rights, and I don't know if there's still like a gay games happening in Hong Kong.
It's happening next year. It just got delayed due to the pandemic.
Yeah, so I would assume there's some like pretty anti-gay discourse happening that you have to gear up for. That
Like
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised like if it's kind of like from the pan blue side, like it's just borderline kind of like expected the conservatives, but like when it's coming from like the pandemic side, that's where the problem is. Like guys, come on,
right.
what does this have to do with democracy? Like you just I don't get it. Like the thing I've noticed is just pretty much almost all of the LGBT community seems to be like pandem or like leading pandem.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I don't know. Just
I'm not sure because
yeah.
it's just personal anecdotes. Like people that I know could be pretty pro-Trump, which is really something special for me because I guess because they're always reading media from uh, Hong Kong side, like I say Apple Daily, and they're not really reporting, the I guess the mainstream media kinds of talk about like the Trump politics, you know?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, I think there were a lot of like it seems like most people really get their news from like Instagram, like just social media in general. And I think you know if and it seems like somebody has the same opinion. And I think that's trying to use Hong Kong gag as like kind of like to share my own like different opinion. Kind of like
Oh yeah,
I don't know,
that would
just
be great.
yeah. I mean, I've like remember my own takes on shit like what we should do about Hong Kong issues, like focus on LGBT. Like
No, you're doing a good job.
I mean,
Yeah.
oh, thanks. This, no, I think it's just really just, I can't really do much in real life. Might as well try and do things. The space I've created, the space I have,
Oh yeah.
just take advantage of it
Yeah.
and try to do so.
Another thing I could draw your
But
attention
yeah,
to.
just
Yeah,
yeah.
uh,
Go ahead.
LGBT could be like, it when you talk about it for a long time, it's gonna be tiring because people commenting on your it would be the same like we go back to the same idea. Oh, it's a guy. I know it's a guy, and always or why don't
like two guys.
exactly there.
Yeah,
The discourse would be
really true.
circling. You can kind of also pivot towards land development. That's also like a huge, I guess, a topic that would unite everyone.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was thinking of like just doing posts on my story, like maybe showcasing like LGBT films, like maybe having LGBT related events. Like next month is Pride Month,
Oh yeah.
and I would have some idea what we could do.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, you should throw it out
yeah,
there.
kind of like not really. Like I don't really have ideas for like LGBT memes exactly, but I do what I can do is things like trivia or like movie showings or just kind of like discussions. That's what I can do.
Right, right. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
great idea. Yeah. No, well, but I would definitely like be supporting, though I'm a cis and straight. But yeah, if you got movie recommendations, then I'll definitely check them out.
Like, yeah, well, I'll probably share them with like sharing. Like, there's like a couple films. Like, and I think that most people are familiar with like Happy
Oh
Together, which
yeah,
like the
of
film with
course.
Leslie. But there's also a bunch of other films like Tracy, Soap
Right,
Soap,
right, right.
and Professor Me. Like, those are some films that I can name off the top of my
Oh
head.
yeah, that's
But
good.
yeah, just these type of films are.
Are there viewing parties or what? How's it gonna work?
Yeah, I was like maybe possibly viewing parties on like LGBT films. Like if I can find them online. Yeah,
Nice,
I've seen shit. Damn.
nice. Yeah.
Alright.
Well, I guess this is probably all we can discuss. But yeah, it's been a great talk. I don't know. Probably it's gonna like run over your time.
No, we can finish up right now. So, do you have anything you want to say before we end?
Ah,
Anything you want to?
I want to segue into the land use thing, but I don't know like if your
Oh,
account would tackle
yeah.
that because there are a lot of people.
It's not really,
Right?
really. It's not something I can really mean, but we just kind of talk about. I think everyone kind of knows it's an issue. So,
There
yeah. Whereas LGBT or like anti-Mainland
there's
sentiment is
way
less common.
it's way more memeable and it's a special market niche in your Instagram, I guess.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I would encourage like the leftist sense, like these things are interconnected, right? So if it's a class thing all the time, and you can't just say environmentalism or women's rights, it can't exist without LGBT rights, and LGBT rights cannot exist without good and development, and so on and so forth. And it seems like yeah, you're tackling a really great niche there. Yeah, just hoping it can push you towards like uh, like looking over to other sectors and yeah, just meme it out,
Yeah, I guess. Anyways, because I'm just gonna end it soon.
Okay.
So, thank you all for listening in to this episode of the podcast, and I hope I see you next time.